What is up, everybody? My name is Derek, aka Tank Bro. I make up one half of the two tank guys. My counterpart Phil, aka Fowler Phil, will be creating his own content as well as joining us on a couple of episodes to help you guys out. Alright, so for episode 1, we decided to take a step back and walk you through the equipment needed to set up your very first tank. So to jump right into it, to make things very simple, we broke it down into 4 essential categories of things you'll need. 1, you're going to need a tank. 2, you're going to need a good filtration system. 3, you're obviously going to need some water. And 4, you're going to need some good lighting. Choosing a tank is going to be relatively easy for you, and it's probably going to be the most inexpensive thing that you're going to do in the entire setup of your aquarium. The one thing to keep in mind is how much space do you have in the place that you live in. I personally live in an apartment. It's pretty spacious. However, 55 gallons is probably the max I can put in here. Maybe I can do 90 gallons because that just means the tank's gonna get a little bit wide. The other thing to think about is where in the house do you plan on putting your tank. I have mine placed here against this wall in my living room because right around the corner is a bathroom. So when I do my water changes, it's super simple. I don't have to lug a bucket all the way across the house. They do get a little bit heavy. One last thing to keep in mind when you're picking out a tank is what do you plan on having in the tank? Fish obviously are used to swimming around in some pretty large areas. You don't want to confine them to really small places. One good rule of thumb is for every inch of fish, you probably need to have about 2 gallons of water. All right, we went through step 1. We found out what size tank we're going to get, where we're going to put it, and how many fish we're relatively going to have. Now on to step 2, filtration. Filtration can vary depending on the tank size that you have. The general concept for filtration is you pull water out of the tank. We need to get it filtered, obviously, and then put back into the tank. This can be accomplished a couple different ways, like I said, depending on your tank size. If you have a smaller system, 5, 10, 15, 20 gallon tank, you can get away with using an HOB filter. This is a hang on the back filter. This filter is exactly how it sounds. It hangs off the back of the tank, pulls water through, basically looks like a tiny straw that it does that with, puts it through a couple filter pads, drops it back into the tank to clean the water. The benefits of an HOB filter is that 1, they're very cheap, 2, they're simple to keep up with, and 3, they're kind of quiet. The downsides I will say is they're not very aesthetically pleasing as they're going to be hanging off the back of your tank. Now say you're getting a larger system, like the one I have behind me, it's 55 gallons. You're going to need to filter a lot more water in a short amount of time. The way that's accomplished is water is pulled out of the tank and placed into what they call a refugium or a wet-dry box. Those are 2 different things. Refugium is basically a separate compartment that is put underneath your tank. Water is put through several different filter processes and then brought back into the tank via a submersible pump or a sump. A wet-dry box is the same concept, however everything is enclosed, there's no open areas, so there's no room to add additional equipment like a protein skimmer. Both accomplish the same thing, it's just personal preference and what makes more sense for your aquarium setup. You're probably asking yourself, how do I get the water from the tank into my refugium or my wet-dry box? It's accomplished basically in 2 different ways. You get to choose. 1, you can buy a overflow box like I have on my tank here. Or 2, you can get a pre-drilled tank. A pre-drilled tank is basically a tank that has a hole drilled in the glass through the bottom. This allows plumbing to be hidden within the tank so it doesn't look bulky or not as nice essentially. You'll see a lot of the plumbing hidden in the corner of the tank or in the middle of the tank. It's very common. A little bit more pricey to have this done because obviously it requires some extra drilling and plumbing is already included. I personally did not do that because I was given my tank here. I added an overflow box and I believe that overflow box cost me about $100. All right, moving right along. Number 3, we have the water. We went ahead and picked out our tank. We know what size we want, where we're gonna put it. 2, based on the size tank that we have, we decided what type of filtration we're gonna use. 3, we're moving on to, very importantly, the water. This is very simple. You basically have 2 options. 1, you can go to your local fish shop, LFS, and buy some water. They have pre-salted water generally. Ours in this area cost about $2 per gallon. Now you can imagine there's a couple issues with that when you're first starting out. To fill up 55 gallons worth of water, it's gonna cost a lot of money. And secondly, hauling that much water is not easy. Now, the second option is to purchase what they call an RODI system. That's reverse osmosis deionized system. What this does is it takes ordinary tap water, puts it through a 6-stage process, and filters out everything you need in there to make it the purest form where your fish can live. These systems are not very cheap, however, they save you a lot of money down the long run. They cost roughly about $350. What Fowler, Phil, and I did was we bought one together, and we basically just kind of trade off every other week to fill up the amount of water we need to do water changes. Once you have the water brewed, you simply just add in some salt. Now let's move along to the lights. We got our tank, we figured out filtration, we filled it up with water. Let's throw in some lights in the mix now. This is probably the single most important thing that you're going to have in your tank. Depending on what you're going to put in your tank will determine what type of light you need. If you are doing a fish only with live rock system like Fowler Phil, you don't need to go crazy with lights. Just look for something that is full spectrum. If we're doing a reef tank, depending on what type of reef you want to do. I have a mixed reef tank. I have some SPS. I do have a couple of softies on the bottom here, and some Zoas that I'm running right now. My goal is to grow these corals and have them be very, very healthy in the tank. I purchased a light that was not meant to grow coral in the beginning. I purchased a US Current Orbit IC LED light, which I will say is phenomenal. It's a beautiful light, has many different control abilities to it. However, when I started adding coral, my coral weren't growing as fast as I would like, so I made the decision to invest in a more adequate type of light. These are the Ecotech Radion XR35 Generation 4 lights. The setup was very expensive. I believe it cost me over $1,300 to get set up. However, I can see tremendous coral growth now, and I'm very happy to have them. A couple things to look at when you are purchasing a light is features. A couple of features that most lights have are a timer, most of them have night lights, and the ability to control them via an app or through a remote control. There's several different types of lights. They have the bulb lights as well as LED strip lights. LED strip lights are relatively new technology. They last a little bit longer and are said to be as powerful. Some people live and die by the bulb lights. You're going to see a lot of T5 lights being thrown out there when you do your research. I recommend doing a lot of research in this aspect of things depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Like I said previously, I'm going to put in the description all of the equipment that I bought to start out, including that US Current Orbit IC LED system. Alright, we did it. That concludes episode 1. Thanks for tuning in today. 4 pieces of equipment: tank, filtration, water, and lighting that you need to get your tank started. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram @TankBro and hit that subscribe button, please. Much appreciated. In the comments, leave anything you want to see in future and upcoming episodes. We look forward to making episode 2 for you. We're going to be going over cycling. Let's go.